You want to hear about some more icons of the game?
I would love to.
Some of them heavily involved with water fountains. I don't know. Um, so I'm here to talk about the famous U.S. men's national team water fountain shoot. So my source for this one, I definitely want to give credit here because I got like all my notes from this story. Is an article called "The Story Behind the Most Famous Photo Shoot in American Soccer History" by Pablo Morar, aka MLSist on Twitter. Articles on the Athletic. I highly, highly, highly recommend you go take a look at the article. I don't think I included everything from the article, but I did take a lot from here, and it was a fantastic read. Again, highly recommend go checking it out. But now on to the photo shoot itself. So the famous USMNT water fountain shoot took place at Wake Med Soccer Park, previously known as SAS Soccer Park when the shoot was happening, and it is in Cary, North Carolina. The shoot took place in spring of 2002, um, and was done by the New York Times Magazine as they wanted to do a photo shoot for the U.S. men's national team players ahead of the 2002 World Cup upcoming in the summer. So the article of the Times piece that they were taking this photo shoot for is called "The Boys of Soccer Meet Seven Hot Shots on the U.S. World Cup Team." The photographer for the shoot was Matthias Vreens McGrath, who was a creative director at Giorgio Armani and also moved to the upper ranks of Gucci. So very well known, high quality photographer. Um, I think this was an important part to mention. Pablo mentioned this a lot in his article, and that is the fact that the model of the water fountain for the shot with Landon Donovan is an SD 440. Do with that what you will. Now, why would the U.S. Soccer Federation want the USMNT to be involved in this piece with the New York Times? Well, as Pablo states, coming off the national team's miserable 1998 World Cup, the USSF was eager to introduce the men's team to a broader, more receptive audience. U.S. soccer press officer Michael Kammerman said, "We at that time were just trying to not only get eyes in the soccer media, but also just get into the mainstream. So the opportunity to be part of it was a no-brainer." And so let's get into the pictures themselves. And so I'm going to go in order of how Pablo described them coming to the photo shoot. And as I talk about each person, I'm going to share the photo itself as I talk about it. So hopefully you should be able to see my screen. Thumbs up. Good. All right. So the boys arrived one at a time. So I'll go through each person individually, and again, I'll show the photo as I talk about them. So first up, as I'm sure you could tell, Casey Keller. There's a hilarious quote from Casey in which he walks into the locker room and notices all of the clothes that are very unusual for what he's used to. In part of his reaction, he stated that as I was looking at all of this stuff and going, this stuff isn't really my style. But secondly, these were all model sizes. I'm not fitting into a lot of medium or large. My legs and my ass just were not going to work with what they had. So he put on the Calvin Klein undershirt, as you can see in this photo, as this was the only thing that fit him. Uh, Casey seemed to be pretty happy. This was all that he could fit into. As he stated, I should give praise to all my plyometrics over the years that made my ass so big that I couldn't fit into those sample sizes. I could have been in some sort of skin tight snake skin something or other. Um, Vreens McGrath, the photographer, was not a big fan of his photo. He actually called it his least favorite photo as he felt it was boring. To which I have to say I wholly agree compared to the photos that are coming up. So next was actually someone's whose photo never got released. Next was Brad Friedel. So since it was not released, I don't have a picture here to show for you. But Brad's photo, again, was the only one that did not appear in the article. So all we have to go off of here are the words of Pablo, who apparently has a copy of the photo. Pablo describes it as Brad barefoot squatting down below a goal in training gear, his arms outstretched. I believe Pablo also said that he had to wear, I think, the same thing that Casey wore, because again, that was the only thing that could fit him. Based on the conversation Pablo had with Brad, I think he's pretty grateful that the photo was never released. Although I, for one, would love to see it. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. So next up was DeMarcus Beasley. Not a ton to say on DeMarcus's photo. It was pretty normal, but DeMarcus seemed to actually enjoy his photo, likely more than the rest. DeMarcus actually stated, I mean, I could tell you that my photo isn't as bad as everybody else's. Mine was halfway decent. That's just an epic photo shoot. At the time, none of us thought the photos would be like that. I remember personally, I had some funny clothes set up for me. They wanted me to wear pink pants for my photo, like bright, bright pink. Thankfully, when I saw mine at the end of the day, I thought it wasn't that bad, and I still don't. Next up, the most famous picture of them all, Landon Donovan. So with Landon, Vreens McGrath was able to get a bit more out of the shoot than some of Landon's teammates, and I'm sure you'll see that in the photos themselves. He said that Landon was more eager, energetic, and more willing to try things, hence where the water fountain comes in. Unfortunately, Landon declined to comment on Pablo's article, so nothing from him on what he thought. However, this did become a massively vital part of USMNT fan culture and still even is today. So little did Landon and Vreens McGrath know that they were going to be changing USMNT lore forever. Unfortunately, not much else on this photo right now. So we will move on to the next one, who is Brian McBride. So according to Vreens McGrath, this is one of his favorite photos. However, he really had to guide him into the pose that we all know so well. Honestly, not much else to say on this one. McBride again didn't respond to Pablo, so unfortunately can't get his thoughts on this photo. But next up, Kobe Jones. So Kobe said that when it came to the photo shoot, they were all sent separately, one at a time. So nobody had any idea what the other guys were doing and no idea what they were about to get into. The Kobe photo was actually rejected at first, and it had to be cropped before it was included. They ended up cropping out a bit of the bottom of the photo, which removed part of his legs and apparently his bare feet. If you want to see the uncropped photo, go check out Pablo's article. I believe there is an uncropped photo of it in there. So only two left. Next up, Clint Mathis, or Cletus. People may not remember, but Clint was actually a very big deal prior to the 2002 World Cup. Before the shoot had started, Clint had actually been in Europe talking with Bayern Munich representatives. Nothing too crazy about Clint's photo, and he was quoted as thinking that he actually did a pretty okay job with the shoot. He actually also had a separate shoot that was included in the New York Times Magazine, also shot by Vreens McGrath, in which he was more bearskin, and the photos were in black and white. Again, if you want to see those photos, Pablo has it in his article. Go check it out. Vreens McGrath is quoted as saying that Clint was getting a bit more reserved on him when it came to that separate photo shoot, but that he actually got one of his favorite pictures out of it. And finally, to wrap things up, Pablo Mastroeni. Mastroeni had made the World Cup roster without having actually played a single qualifier. So him being here almost never happened. He went to the shoot with a couple of the more veteran guys on the team and was quoted saying, if those guys are doing it, I'm doing it. To which I say, thank goodness, because otherwise we wouldn't have this amazing photo. Mastroeni was quoted as saying the following as it relates to the choice of the outfit. At the time, I was 25 and I was willing to be daring in clothes. In the clothes that I wear, my hairstyles, I was willing to try all kinds of different things. There is no way you'd find me in those pants today, nor doing that photo shoot. But back then, going through what we were going through and my age, in the experience in its totality, it was a really interesting experience. And one of my favorite quotes from the whole shoot was one from Pablo Mastroeni, in which he said, I was really happy to be there. I was just taking in the whole experience both on and off the field. I felt like a guinea pig, you know? I was just like, whatever you guys need, this is a big deal. To which I absolutely love that quote. He's just go with the flow, do what he needs to do for the US. And I honestly just reading everything that Pablo was saying about this whole shoot made me like a really big fan of his. He just seemed like such a great guy. So, a little bit more notes outside of the pictures themselves. So, sorry, moved off my notes there for a second. The team seems to have liked Pablo Mastroeni's photo the most, despite the Donovan picture being the more viral, well-known one. And you might be asking yourself, what did head coach Bruce Arena think about all of this? Well, Bruce said, I remember how ridiculous they looked. We were all just saying, why the hell would you even agree to do that? It was pretty stupid, yeah. I honestly wouldn't expect anything else from Bruce Arena. Cameraman stated that the first time the whole team heard about the shoot was early morning while in a hotel in South Korea for the World Cup. He remembers hearing laughter hollering in the hallway as teammates began to see the results of the photos from the shoot. Tony Miola was quoted as saying, "Doesn't he look pretty?" while holding up a photo of Casey Keller. As the photos came out, they were all trying to figure out who looked the worst. Apparently, this whole time, Bruce was just walking around confused with a hand on his head. According to Brad Friedel, the ones who got it the worst were Landon and DeMarcus, mainly because they were the young guys on the team. Also, if you don't know, there are a plethora of outtakes of the same guys, similar in pose and nature to the extra Clint photo I mentioned earlier before. Again, if you want to see those photos, check out the article by Pablo. Another one of my favorite quotes comes from Casey Keller off the back of Bruce asking, how did you guys not just say no? Casey responded by saying, I think some of it was that there was just maybe this idea that we needed to do our part to just help promote the game and the team. It wasn't in our DNA to say no to something like this, if I'm being honest. In the years since the shoot, cameraman has made it a priority to oversee all of the USMNT photo shoots. He was not going to let something like this happen again. He also said that Landon wouldn't actually talk to him for a couple days after the photos were released. Safe to say he was not a big fan of them. However, despite all of the ridicule and the crap that the players and the team got over this photo shoot at the time, it did seem to have an effect on galvanizing the team and helping them be more of a single unit and play for one another. Mastroeni was quoted saying, I think we were comfortable with ourselves, and that team in particular was a team that really checked their egos at the door, and we were willing to work hard for each other and represent the country the best way we could. And so I think that the shoot was a reflection of that. We were all in the same boat. We all had pictures in there, and regardless of what the people on the outside were saying, we felt comfortable, and in a lot of ways, it did bring us together. To commemorate the whole thing, Pablo Maror returned to the exact water fountain in North Carolina and placed a golden plaque on the fountain that's in the Landon Donovan picture, which read, in the summer of 2002, at this very site, the greatest goal scorer in history of U.S. men's national team had a drink of water. Sadly, the fountain and the plaque were replaced with a new upgraded fountain. However, the fountain with the plaque still attached to it was brought to the National Soccer Hall of Fame, where they're hoping that they can one day get it up and running again for people to even use. As many probably know, the USMNT would go on to lose in the quarterfinals to Germany in the 2002 World Cup, of course, after beating Mexico in the round of 16. And that is the story of the USMNT water fountain shoot.
I have so many things.
I can only imagine. I'm sure everybody has so many questions after all that.
First off, I want a petition for Pablo to release the Brad Friedel photo.
Yes.
I will get it signed by as many people as I need to, but it needs to. I need to see it. Secondly, Bruce Arena looking at something with a little bit of expression and absolutely hating it is so on par. It's ridiculous.
Oh
How
yeah.
dare you try doing anything other than 4-4-2 with Bobby Wood and Josie Altidore up top? Disgusting.
Omar Gonzalez at the back.
Um, that water fountain needs to be not only put in the National Soccer Hall of Fame, but it needs to be enshrined in a museum. Um, I, I'm gonna listen to this like 4 times and just text you with more and more and more that I see. But goodness me, what an absolute burner of a story. I love that so much. That's the best story of the series so far.
100%. Yeah.
One hundred
It's just
percent.
it's so unique. It's so different. It's very good.